Welcome everybody. So the past 2 months I've been working on a too long didn't read version of the TCM chapters guide. So what is TCM? Well, that's the Zeitgeist movement. What is a chapter and why did I create a too long didn't read version of this chapters guide? Well, I'll explain that after this video.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
So with everyone pumped up because of that motivational video, let's have a look at the TCM chapters guide. So this guide is part of the community maintained wikis on this forum and is therefore independently developed and unofficial. In general, it's based on the 68-page long TCM chapters guide 2.0 made in 2012 and the experience gained by activists over time. This TLDR or too long didn't read version of the 2.0 guide is written to be short and concise. For more elaborate information, the 2.0 version is still recommended. Now, I'm not going to read through this whole thing. If you want someone to read it for you out loud, then just ask your digital assistant on your phone to read this page for you. So, starting activism for the Zeitgeist movement or TCM can be overwhelming. Where do you start? What do you need? What are your goals? This chapters guide is here to provide you with the core infrastructure, routine and advice to build and expand your chapter activities. It is critical to understand that there's truly no us versus them within TCM's thinking. It's all us globally, as we are all, in the end, one people sharing this single fragile planet. And this needs to be your mindset as you apply yourself to activism within the movement. So, expectations. Starting TCM activism is not going to be easy with the wrong expectations and attitude. So you should really find enjoyment in what you already do best based on your time, skills and budget you have at hand. Don't bank on the resources of others when developing your own ideas. Their participation is voluntarily and not guaranteed. Also keep in mind that changes to our socio-economic system do not happen overnight. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. The survivability of your chapter depends on establishing a non-exhausting routine that builds up a sustainable momentum for the long run. This guide provides some suggestions with this in mind. So, setting up a chapter. So, TCM has an organized structure built out of necessity upon chapters, which are local groups within the Zeitgeist movement that facilitate collective activism as well as the flow of information in an organized manner. So these chapters operate in a grassroots and open source culture. This means that one functions independently with the same collective TCM train of thought. There's no central control. Each chapter is working to spread and improve this train of thought. So the function of a chapter is to create and sustain a work-oriented environment from which activism can then be performed in accordance with the understanding supported by the movement. A chapter may therefore also consist out of teams. TCM is not a club. It's a worldwide campaign for mass awareness. And the result of creating a chapter is that it brings the activity of the movement to community level, literally into the backyards of the masses. So TCM chapters can be divided up in several tiers, and every tier has their own responsibilities. But these are not strict rules, these are just guidelines or suggestions. You can make your own variations. So in no particular order, we start with meta. It's encouraged for international chapters to communicate and collaborate when needed and possible. This occurs organically and in an unofficial capacity. So global chapters may, for example, share their progress to reports and their skills and experience to community wikis and projects. So, for example, this forum, TCM.1, is an example of meta chapter cooperation. And then we have national chapters. So a national chapter should focus on setting up core tools and organization for development into regional chapters. This includes activities such as organizing, creating, developing, and adapting content to their region in order to be used by subchapters in local activism. So it basically comes down setting up the first website and translating stuff. And then we have regional chapters. So a regional chapter should focus on relieving the national chapter from the responsibility of expanding into various regional cities by directly supporting, guiding, and promoting these developments. So basically, the goal of a regional chapter is to become obsolete and focus more on a local level. So then we have local chapters, and they should focus on being constantly active in the local area, typically a town, city, or college campus, by constantly organizing events and always trying to be visible and getting the word out there. Or, in other words, literally putting the train of thought of the Zeitgeist movement into the backyards of the masses. So for all this, you need chapter coordinators. So a chapter coordinator is not a leader, but tries to help people become their own leaders. A coordinator simply coordinates. It's a facilitating role. A coordinator does not tell other people what to do, but helps others to take charge of what is needed. A coordinator simply recognizes that by creating more leaders, an organizing effort can expand. And for the sake of simplicity, a leader can be defined as a proactive member instead of a reactive or passive one. So gathering people. So first of all, check if you can join or revive in an existing chapter. And for that, you can consult the TCM chapters map here on the forum. You can, for example, zoom in to your local area and see if there's already a chapter. But of course, also check on social media and search engines because this map may not be complete. So an easy way to quickly build momentum is by starting a chat group on, for example, Signal. And it's really recommended to build the foundation of your chapter on open source solutions to shape the cultural direction for the future of your chapter. And then in this group, you can discuss the following things like why is everyone interested in doing activism for TCM, discuss each other's strengths and weaknesses and develop a short-term strategy to exploit them, and check in particular for management, IT, multimedia and writing skills, and how much time is everyone realistically able to spend on activism. So by collecting this information, you can then start building the basic infrastructure for your chapter. But do manage your expectations because the people joining your chat groups, meetings and events may be passive. And this is okay, these are your supporters. And every chapter may organically develop into a small subgroup of active people, and these are your core members. And the core members often initiate the activism for more passive supporters. So don't treat passive or active members any differently. All contributions are valued, and these roles may be fluid based on someone's available time. And also keep in mind that small chapters are more efficient. Don't try to aim for a 2-digit size of active core members within your chapter. Promote self-leadership and subdivide into local, smaller chapters when possible. So the Zeitgeist movement is an educational movement, and to do educational activities, you need an information base, where you describe what the movement is about, how you can get involved, etc. So it's best to dedicate a website for your information base, because if you do this on social media, then you kind of have a problem. because like I mentioned, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And social media has by nature already a short attention span. People just like things but not really participate. And social media platforms come and go. And once you have to transition to a new social media platform, you have to rebuild your audience, you have to reset all your content. And what the thing is you never want to do is start over. So if you dedicate everything on a nice website and link from there on social media, then you just have this stable anchor for the long run, because this is a marathon. So I will dedicate a different Zeit-Talks episode about what to include on your chapter's website, so I will not go into that in detail now. So then, organizing events. So setting up a routine to meet each other is very important, but don't meet for the sake of meeting. Act more, meet less. Really have goals and keep track of what has been discussed in previous meetings. Keep meetings as short as possible and manage the time efficiently. Don't aim for a 2-digit size attendance count. Large meetings tend to result in either just a few people broadcasting a long monologue or a chaotic long meeting. Consider writing a blog post if it's a long announcement or update. Don't claim too much of the valuable time of others. Manage it preciously. Sometimes a brief update through a chat or a voice message is sufficient as well. Meetings can be skipped if nothing needs to be discussed, or consider combining it with a social activity. Also, try to experiment with asynchronous communication, such as texting, blogs, forums, and email, to inform and stay informed, because meetings with a dedicated time and maybe also location can sometimes be an inconvenience. So you should also allow for people to just tune in whenever they can. So if a conflict arises, you also need to deal with that. So first of all, mind the human. This is especially true for online interaction. So if a conflict develops during an online chat, switch to a video call. And if a conflict develops during a face-to-face meeting, discuss it privately in another room. Use non-violent communication techniques and objective reasoning to arrive at a resolution. If this is not possible, find a mediator. And if issues arise due to technical reasons, find a technical solution. And if issues arise due to workload, then delegate the work or apply automation. So then, projects. So projects are goals with a defined outcome in mind within a specified time frame. So projects are not meant to last forever. Also aim to always open source your projects so that other chapters may help develop it and benefit from the results. It's also important to remember that your idea is your project. Sometimes people brainstorm about ideas and they tend to wind up in a competition about who can think of the most ambitious idea. This is a recipe for disaster. Develop your idea with your personal resources in mind, that is, your time, your skills, and your money. And only scale out if more people are able and willing to participate, but do keep in mind their busy lives and manage your expectations. Also, appreciate all contributions, no matter how small. Don't try to run the whole show or do most of the work, because then others become less involved and you will burn out. Failure in this area of dividing and clearly delegating will most likely lead to disappointment or worse, mainly due to the diffusion of responsibility effect. It also helps to do projects in twos, because working in pairs improves creativity and speeds up problem-solving tasks. What also helps is to use the SMART method to scope your project. So SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So in a nutshell, that means that you target a specific area for improvement, quantify or at least suggest an indicator of progress, specify who will do it, state what results can realistically be achieved given available resources, and specify when the results can be achieved. And some projects that may help develop your chapter are, for example, set up a TCM website to build up this information base, design and print high-quality TCM stickers, t-shirts and sweaters as promotion material and to be easily recognizable at events. And also create an inventory of local, like-minded organizations for organizational networking. And you can do that by, for example, going to meetup.com. So with those projects done, you can start organizing events. So make sure you wear your TCM shirt or sweater with at the back of your shirt or sweater the URL of your chapter, which is your information base. So people can, if they want to learn more about what you're doing, they can look it up. But also they can start more easily a conversation with you. But it's also very important to take into account the type of events that you're organizing or attending. Because some chapters aim for very large events and then they have to spend months on organizing that. So you really have to take into account your input and output productivity ratio. If you really have to spend those months on just one actual day of activism, then maybe you should reconsider if your chapter is really capable of such an event. I will dedicate a different Zeit-Talks episode about how to organize a Z-Day. But for now, I will just go through what you can expect from typical TZM events. So this overview here has some colored categories, and they're just there as suggestions to help manage your expectations. So the green ones are orientation meetings or organizational networking and street activism, and those are suitable for developing chapters. So for example, orientation meetings are about attending interesting lectures to improve your knowledge. So the Zeitgeist Movement Netherlands often goes to Pakhuis de Zwijger here in Amsterdam, which hosts free lectures about smart city designs, the economy, the environment, all kinds of topics relating to the Zeitgeist movement as well. So if you attend those with these t-shirts and afterwards you have a social event like a dinner, then you can also improve your social bonding and just be there in the backyards of the masses, so to speak. Also attend workshops to improve your skills. And we do that at Waag Society here in Amsterdam. And they organize workshops for 3D printing or graphical design with open source software, all kinds of things that also are very relevant within the Zeitgeist movement. And this really helps also to improve your skills then. Then you have organizational networking. So like I already mentioned, if you already did the project to create an overview of like-minded organizations, which you can do on meetup.com, and then you can attend their events to broaden your activist network. But of course, respect their initiative and schedule. So don't attack or interrupt their talks. You're just there to poke their brains and to just get everyone aware of what the Zeitgeist movement promotes. And maybe you can also invite them later for a Z-Day to do a talk or other collaborations. Then you have street activism. So that can be, for example, create and print these long-lasting stickers and place them on popular places such as busy traffic lights, metro, bus, or train stations. But of course, do check with local regulations regarding any restrictions and in general, always cooperate with the police. Then Z-Day. So a Z-Day is a yearly global symposium about exposing problems and possible solutions in the current zeitgeist or current climate of society. For that, you really need a developed chapter. Then you have town hall meetings. So a town hall meeting is basically a Z-Day, but can be organized multiple times a year. And for that, you can also invite local government, business, and the press. There you can also poke their brains about this post-scarcity economy, but this really requires a mature chapter because you really expose yourself to people that probably know their stuff, and you don't want people to put you in a certain spot and then maybe get a bad reputation. So that's something, you really require a mature chapter for that, but also then things start to develop more. Like Amsterdam is working on a circular economy, and I would really like to talk about the things that the Zeitgeist movement talks about, because just having a circular economy within an infinite growth economy, I don't really see it happening. But for that, you really need to have this connection with local government and business, and we are working on that. Then protests. So TCM is a social educational movement and does not engage in any protests or demonstrations as a means to convey the central message. Change comes from understanding and proposing a better solution which makes the old way obsolete. A protest or demonstration does not offer the bandwidth to communicate our train of thought. In other words, protests or demonstrations can be noble but do not go far enough. Thus, as emotional and exciting such high-energy actions may seem, they should not be carried out on behalf of TCM. And to close it off with a quote from Buckminster Fuller, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So, I hope this was very useful for you and that you're motivated to either restart or start a chapter. And if you need any help, then please visit tcm.one. That's the forum that you just saw. There's an activism support category there, and there you can ask all the questions that you have. And if you're Dutch, also visit Zeitgeistbeweging.nl and contact us on a local level, because hopefully you can join us and improve and mature our chapter as well. So I thank you for your time and see you in the next episode.